Welcome to MPUNGWE-PUNGWE YouTube channel. Subscribe for you to enjoy more of our videos anytime we upload.
You mentioned that on operational matters, the Chief of the Defense Force reports to the Ministry of Defense. I'm asking that because earlier on we got information that the Army Command, the Chief of the Defense Force, reports to some specific officers. So I wanted you to confirm that the Chief of the Defense Force reports to the Minister of Defense through the Secretary of Defense and not the Minister of Defense. It's I want you to confirm if it's through the Secretary and not the Minister. And two, I wanted you to also confirm. Just a moment. Yeah. So you said the Secretary of the Minister of Defense is also a Secretary of the Defense Council. I'm sure it's to safeguard the interests of the operation aspect, so that he gets the ministry gets direct information in the Defense Council. That's my assumption. Maybe just confirm that for now. I can't see my other question, Chair. I may come back later. I had 3 questions, but I think I'm just seeing one. So my request is to ask the Honourable Minister if he can confirm that the reporting lines from the commander of the Malawi Defense Force is through the Secretary of Defense and not the Minister. Thank you.
There's Mayani.
Chair, thank you very much for giving an opportunity to people of the Zamayani to ask him, the Minister. Chair, would you please allow me to engage the Minister on a few questions?
Yes, how many questions have you got?
About 4, Chair.
About 4, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
after your questions, then I'll ask the Minister to respond before taking more questions. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair, for your guidance. Minister of Defense, I really appreciate your presentation. And I just wanted also to declare that as members of the public or as a civilian, we were beneficiaries of the civilian or public activities that are offered by the Malawi Defense Force during the last season of delivery of the fertilizer, the subsidized fertilizer. My area has challenges with transport, so we benefited much by use by your vehicles, the Malawi Defense Force vehicles. Without them, my people couldn't have benefited. So we are beneficiaries of the civilian activities offered by the Malawi Defense Force. Just to concur a bit with Zomba Tondwe, Chair, I just wanted to clearly understand the reporting lines or the way you are structured. Especially, I would like if you can draw a structure, placing in your narrative, in your reply, placing where the PS is, the MDF commander is, and then you connect with the minister and also the commander-in-chief. Chair, I'm emphasizing on the point by Zomba Tondwe, because if that line is not clear, then we might be finding ourselves in that. So this one, don't reply because you replied together with the Zomba Tondwe. But where I wanted us to engage, Honorable Minister, in your presentation you have emphasized a lot on policies. And the previous presenter, the former key principal secretary of the Minister of Defense, highlighted that there is a draft policy, that's the defense policy. I would like you to confirm to this report, to this committee, if there is a defense policy which needs revision, or if there is no defense policy in operation currently. Because you have referred so much to policies, and I wanted you to confirm if the previous submission by the former Principal Secretary, which he said the defense policy is in a draft form, and I wanted you to confirm if indeed you are operating without a defense policy. That's my first one in our engagement. Thank you, Chair. I would like to get that, then I'll follow up with the other questions.
Minister, you may take those questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and I would like to thank Honorable Member from Zomba-Tondwe and also Honorable Member from Mayan for the questions. From Honorable Member from Zomba-Tondwe, the operational matters regarding day-to-day operations. I think I did allude to the fact that for the day-to-day management of the Malawi Defense Force, the commander, or rather the chief of the Defense Force, is accountable to the Minister of Defense. So, Honorable Chairperson, I would like the committee to understand that as provided for in the Constitution, Section 161, which clearly stipulates that the commander or the chief of the Defense Force is accountable to the Minister of Defense in the day-to-day management of the Malawi Defense Force. It's already provided for in the Constitution. Now, when we are talking about accountability, Honorable Chairperson, accountability can happen in so many other ways. But when we're talking about accountability, what it means is for anything that happens within the Malawi Defense Force, the chief of the Defense Force is answerable to the Minister of Defense, if I'm to use a different word. Otherwise, the Constitution uses the word accountable, meaning that the Chief of Defense Force would be answerable to the Minister of Defense for the day-to-day management of the Malawi Defense Force. Now, when we are talking about the day-to-day management of the Malawi Defense Force, reporting, I think there could be an event or an issue that has happened at the Malawi Defense Force, perhaps the Minister is not in the office. That does not preclude the Chief of Defense Force to reach out to the Secretary for Defense. He can reach out to the Secretary for Defense to report on matters that have happened within the Malawi Defense Force. But that does not constitute being accountable. So what it means is the Chief of Defense Force is, as stipulated by the Constitution, accountable to the Minister of Defense for the day-to-day management of the Malawi Defense Force. So if I'm to relate that to the question from Mayan, again, if I'm to draw a structure with the Commander in Chief of the Malawi Defense Force, as I mentioned earlier on, that again, according to the Constitution, Section 161 again, ultimate responsibility of the Malawi Defense Force vests with the Commander in Chief. And I think, as the name suggests, the President is the Commander in Chief. Meaning anything that happens again in the military, in the Malawi Defense Force, including the Minister of Defense, just like all the other structures of government, being the Commander-in-Chief, the President holds ultimate responsibility of the Malawi Defense Force. So if I was to draw a line as regards to how the reporting structures are happening within the Malawi Defense Force, and in relation to the Minister of Defense, again, the Constitution provides those reporting lines very, very clearly, and is supported by the Defense Force Act, particularly with the establishment of the Defense Council, which is another structure within which the Malawi Defense Force, as well as the Minister of Defense, reports to the Commander-in-Chief, because all resolutions of the Defense Council are reported back to the Commander-in-Chief vis-a-vis the President, meaning that the President is always apprised of what is going on within the Ministry of Defense, as well as within the Malawi Defense Force, through the Defense Council. So, Honorable Chairperson and members, the Defense Council would be equated to any ordinary board of directors for any organization. That's what I would simply relate it to say this is as good as a board of directors. But ours is a Defense Council, so the Commander-in-Chief is apprised of what goes on within the Malawi Defense Force, as well as within the Ministry of Defense, through, again, the Defense Council. as the ultimate decision-making body of the Ministry of Defense together with the Malawi Defense Force. And related to that, the question that came, the Secretary for Defense, yes, I can confirm that the Secretary for Defense, again, in accordance with the Defense Force Act, is indeed a member of the Defense Council. And the Secretary for Defense sits in the Defense Council as Secretary of the Defense Council. And myself, as Minister of Defense, I sit in the Council as Chairperson of the Defense Council. The other observations from the Zamayani, we appreciate also your acknowledgement of the work that the Malawi Defense Force did in delivering fertilizers in your constituency, just like we did in other constituencies as well. Thank you very much for that acknowledgement. I think the issue about, I hope I've managed to clarify on the reporting lines between the Minister of Defense, the Commander or the Chief of Defense Force, as well as the Commander-in-Chief. And indeed, I must state, Chair, here that, again, just like any organization, should there be any issues that the Commander-in-Chief would like to find out from the Chief of Defense, again, there is no law or legislation that prevents the Commander-in-Chief to check or reach out to the Chief of Defense Force for any information that he might wish to have. Equally so, just like the President, who is the Commander-in-Chief, there is no legislation that prevents him from reaching out to the Minister of Defense to get or to check any information that he may wish to check with the Minister or indeed with the Chief of the Defense Force. The defense policy, Honorable Member from the Zamayani, yes, defense policy is in draft form. Just like I mentioned that the Act, the Defense Force Act is just 2023, July 2023. So the expectation is from the assent that happened in July 2023 of the Defense Force Act, the next steps are the development of the subsidiary legislation vis-a-vis the Defense Force regulations, and subsequent to that, development of the defense policy. So indeed, the defense policy is in draft form. We are developing it. And the timelines that we're giving ourselves is that before the close of this year, we should have it done, because it's now going through the approval processes. It has to be considered again by the Defense Council before we even escalate it to the Commander-in-Chief. So yes, the defense policy is available in draft form, moving towards completion. I thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Chair, my last submissions. Why I asked that background is that we have the previous presenters had highlighted the former PS for Minister of Defense when he was asked about inventory or knowledge on the status of the Malawi Defense Force assets, in particular, things like aeroplanes and the rest. He said your ministry doesn't keep that inventory, such that as you are here, you might not necessarily know how many main statecrafts, like aircrafts, their status and what. I just wanted you to confirm if indeed that your ministry doesn't keep the actual inventory on knowing what is in the Malawi Defense Force, if that's the situation or if it has changed. Thank you, Chair. That's my last submission.
No, Minister, let's exhaust this one.
Honorable Chairperson, without reflecting on what the former PS said, I wouldn't want to answer on his behalf, but answering on my own behalf as Minister of Defense, just like I mentioned with the structures that I mentioned, particularly with reference to the Defense Council, being a structure within which we receive reports of what is happening within the force service units of the Defense Force. I already mentioned that the Defense Council includes the service commanders, Air Force, Army, Navy, as well as the Malawi National Service. Why they are present in the Defense Council, and I mentioned that the Defense Council exists to receive reports from the Chief of Defense Force as well as the Minister of Defense. So this is a structure through which we receive reports. And when we're talking about receiving reports, obviously, we receive reports on how these units are performing. So if we receive reports on how these units are performing, we receive reports on what their asset base is. So if the previous speaker said they don't know, I don't want to reflect on that previous speaker, but this minister, through the structures that we have, we do receive regular reports on the assets, the inventory, and the status in which all these assets are, so that we can make informed decisions on what sort of investments we need to make to ensure that we increase the efficiency, the operational capabilities of the Malawi Defense Force. I thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Nkatabe North, Yaulura Zonse, and we're going along that line, and I'll finish up with the Zomba City South.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for giving people in Nkatabe North to ask questions, about 2 questions. Honorable Minister, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can we go to our presentation number 9, Air Safety and Accident Investigation Procedure? Yes, procedures. Bullet, the last bullet. You said that the ministry remaining committed to transparency, accountability, and the continuous improvement of aviation safety standards. My question comes now that last time here we had to have a chance to interact with the Ministry of Justice. He presented here telling us that he couldn't have time to go through to the report which has been produced by the armies. So you have been in the office maybe for a few months, but my question is, have you ever have that chance to go through the report for the accident? 1. 2 is about accountability. Now, accountability and the transparency. Is it must that the report should be confidential rather than to be accountable to the public, according to our view? Thank you.
Chairwoman Zonse.
Thank you so much, Chair, for giving chance the people of Nchewu constituency to ask a question. Right Honorable Dr. Festin Kaupa, the Minister of Defense. Actually, I had 2 questions, but the first question has been asked already by Nkatabe North. Actually, I will just ask one. Following the accident occurred on the 10th June 2024, what improvements have been introduced to strengthen aircraft maintenance oversight, airworthiness certification, and operational safety? Thank you.
Honourable Minister, may I take those 2 questions?
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honourable members, and I wish to thank Nkatabe North for the questions. Access to the report, I take it that this is the report of the Malawi Defense Force or the report of the inquiry? The report of?
So Malawi Defense Force. Thank you.
So the Malawi Defense Force report, yes, I've seen it. That's my answer. Then there is a report supposed to be confidential. I would say not necessarily, because I guess any reporting any report is supposed to be submitted to the authority that approved, authorized the issuance of that report. I'm taking it like this ad hoc committee has been sanctioned by some authority, from which the expectation is the report that will be generated by this committee is meant to be submitted to the same authority that sanctioned this committee. And therefore it remains a prerogative that office or the person, the office that sanctioned this committee, to now see where do we take this report to. So depending on who sanctioned, who authorized that there should be a Malawi Defense Force investigation, I take it that the report might have been submitted to that office. And therefore, why that office, upon receipt of that report, did not choose to disseminate it I'm sure I would not be answering somebody's question. That person that authorized or sanctioned that investigation should be able to explain why that report has remained confidential and therefore was never made available to the public. Yaulura Zonse, what improvements have we made in the Ministry of Defense as well as in the Malawi Defense Force with regard to the shortcomings that have been identified? We are working, and this Honorable Chairperson and members is work in progress, because there are recommendations that have been made for us to improve the oversight as well as the safety of our military aviation. One of which is, I think everybody here may know that much as we might be talking about having overaged aircrafts, in aviation, I hear aircrafts do not really get old because they go a lot of refurbishments. So for an aircraft to be declared old, it really takes a bit of time. So the aircrafts that we have are aircrafts that just requires some overhauling, some regular servicing, which is what we're endeavoring to do. But I must hasten to mention, Honorable Chairperson, that the challenge that we've had is the same issue of resource constraints. And one thing that we are doing is to advocate for decentralized financing or funding of the Malawi Defense Force service units that I mentioned, the 4 units. We would want to move into a direction where we would want to see Minister of Finance and Treasury financing the Army separately, financing the Malawi Air Force separately, financing the Navy separately, and financing the Malawi National Service separately, as well as, of course, financing the joint Malawi Defense Force headquarters separately. This, we believe, it will also improve in terms of resource utilization, but the investments that we make. Because for the short time that I've been within in the Ministry of Defense, I've noted that when we're talking about operating the Malawi Air Force, it's not really a small thing. And indeed, to undertake maintenance and repair works for our aircrafts, it's not a small thing. Sadly, most of our aircrafts are grounded because not much of this is happening. So to answer Yaulura Zonse, what we are doing is to continuously lobby with Ministry of Finance and Treasury to ensure that resource allocation is done separately so that we can have our aircrafts running most of the times and they are not grounded as the case right now. Because as we speak, some of the aircrafts are out for repairs, but for so many years, these have not come back because the companies that were contracted to undertake this work have not been paid. And this, of course, Honorable Chairperson and members, is not only for the aircrafts, but generally for the Malawi Defense Force. Let it be put on record that the Malawi Defense Force is heavily underfinanced. And if we are to talk about some of our shortcomings, I think we might not be doing justice to national security. I would rather stop here with your permission, Chairperson. I thank you.
There's Akasina, and then we go to Mwanza Central.
Thank you so much, Chair. I will not ask too much questions because Katabe had asked what I wanted to ask, but just to say, good afternoon, Honorable Minister.
Good afternoon.
Chair, the Honorable Minister in some other world used to be my CEO somewhere else when we both worked in the same ministry. And he's a man of his integrity, unless he has changed it because of other things. Can you confirm this whole document you have submitted it and we can speak to it?
Sure, I can confirm, Honorable.
Okay, can I take you to your last statement on page number 9, where you have committed to fully cooperate with this ad hoc committee? If that still stands, through Chair, can you speak or submit before this committee the report which you say you have seen, which was sanctioned by your Ministry of Defense, the Defense Force Planning Inquiry report, which they did on their own? Can you submit that report before this committee?
Sure, Chair. I mean, I already committed that we would want to cooperate with this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, through you, can I ask that the witness duly submit that report which MDF did conduct its own inquiry, because as he has committed through this presentation, I thought he can share so that we can look at it. And then lastly, we didn't want to comment on the previous witness, the former PS, but you have gone rounds and rounds on the inventory. When Mayani asked you, you said no. Defense Council is there to receive reports. I think we have almost four times you have repeated that statement. I wanted you to confirm with this committee if you know the inventory as to how many planes the MDF has. How many are in operation and how many are in that service, which you said some are yet to come back. I like this idea, Chair, that the minister, as I said, is very honest to say the MDF is, or the ministry, or this MDF or ministry is under financed, because I think you agree with me. If there's one vote which is more of into secrecy, it's the defense force, because we say, and you are not fully scrutinized, because we hide under the curtain of national security. I like that you are able now to speak out that no, we are underfunded, we don't have this, we don't have this. Now, one of the TORs of this committee is to provide recommendations at the end of everything. Maybe before we give in the recommendations on how best we can support your ministry and your children of that's Army, Air Force and Navy, can you share with this committee the inventory as to how many, even the marine equipment we have and that which we don't have, and those who are factional, more especially the plane, how many planes, how many helicopters we have? Can you?
No, Minister, you may take the question. If you cannot, then you may have to respond to the PS.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I wish to thank Honorable Member from the Kasina. Indeed, cooperating fully with this committee, we will do. And as I mentioned, yes, this report can be shared. The ministry, or rather Malawi Defense Force, hiding under the curtain of security. I suppose, Honorable Chairperson, this also ought to be accepted, because there are some matters that certainly we cannot be talking about them like right now here. As you mentioned, Honorable Chairperson, that this discussion is live wherever it is, YouTube and wherever. So I don't think it would be right and proper in the interest of national security to be talking some of these issues now. So that, having said that, I don't think it will also be proper for me to be saying, you know, your Malawi Air Force has got 0 aircraft that is operational. I don't think it would be proper. Neither would it be proper here, now that we are on air, to be saying what's the inventory of our Navy, what's the inventory of our Army, how many guns or rifles do we have. I don't think, Chairperson, with due respect, I don't think it would be proper for me to be disclosing such kind of details. Nonetheless, in the interest of this inquiry, if such kind of information is available, certainly I'll have to liaise with appropriate authorities to see what is it and to what extent can we share our security details, lest those security details land in wrong hands. I'm sorry to say this, Chair, but I think this, I believe the committee would also agree with me. So we have the inventory, yes, but Chairperson, I'm hesitant to start mentioning the sort of inventory that we have for our military. I thank you very much, Chair.
Yes, there's a question.
Chair, I fully understand the minister. As I said, is someone who I know very well, as very honest. I don't want to go into that kind of details. You have already started saying we have some planes which went for servicing, but they are yet to be back for a number of years because we haven't for it. You have already studied it. So I just want to confirm, do we have any operation, if we have any emergency today, do we have any operation operation plane under MDF, which is in operation. I don't need to go into details how many are they, and we don't know who do the gun. But do we have any plane which is in operation as we are speaking right now?
I think the Honourable Minister has already said he doesn't want to expose our strength and weaknesses to the enemy. So you're trying to get the answer in a different way. Probably we may have to swallow our pride for now and maybe allow him to answer other operational matters. But where our strength and weaknesses are concerned, he's very reluctant, and probably we should understand why. You asked him a very difficult question. But a very sensitive one.
Chair, I'm much obliged. I will withdraw it and let my Honourable Minister to proceed.
I think you can engage him offline.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Mwanza Central.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honourable Minister, just to also inform you that there are 2 reports that were done by MDF. And we have 1 report with us. It was submitted, but 1 is remaining. So I think the committee is talking about that other report. So probably when you're submitting the reports, to avoid you submitting what we already accessed, maybe you can provide us with 2 reports. Or maybe you check with the chair which one was presented to us, that probably, so that whatever you have should be a different report to the one that was submitted. Honourable Minister, I have several questions for you. I don't know whether, Chair, I should ask 1 question at a time, or I should engage the Honourable Minister. How should I proceed?
You can take 3 now.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take 3. I'll ask 3 questions. Number 1, I want to know, Honourable Minister, where there is an accident of an MDF asset, what is your role as a minister? Number 2, in your office, did you find any documents, not the reports, but documents regarding the accident that happened? And if you found documents, what are those documents? Number 3, you are, in your submission, you are saying there is a chain of reporting, which is general. But I want to find out where there is an accident, what is the chain of reporting? Who reports what to who? Maybe let me stop there for now, Chair. I have 3 more remaining.
Nduna.
Chair, thank you so much. I hope the minister will be able to respond to all these questions because I have, I think I have 2 substantial questions. But, Honorable Minister, the Ministry of Defense was established in 1993, and the key role or mandate is on formulation and implementation of defense policies. And you have mentioned that the defense policy is in a draft form. Would you confirm that there is no any defense policy from 1993 to date? Number 1. Number 2, your presentation on slide number 4, the last sentence, says the Ministry of Defense receive regular reports and briefings on the status, utilization, maintenance, and operational readiness of aviation assets to ensure accountability and effective resource management. You receive regular reports. Number one, would you share these reports that you have been receiving? That's my first question. And my second question is, in your analysis, because I believe when you went into the ministry and the PS, you looked at these regular reports. There is a question about black box, why the aircraft did not have the black box. I'll put it in that plain civilian language. Is there any recommendation in your ministry telling Malawi Defense Force to actually acquire a black box and put in these aircrafts because they came without it? That's what we hear from the report from BFU and the Commission of Inquiry. Was there any recommendation, because that's what your ministry does, was there any recommendation to Malawi Defense Force to acquire voice recorders and black boxes and put them in that aircraft because it was a VVIP aircraft as well? My last question, Honorable Minister, is just to get a confirmation if you have seen any documentation in your office of the ministry being informed about the acquiring or the acquiring of the flight by the late former vice president, because we just want to understand the policy guidelines on when the VVIP request an aircraft from MDF. Do they need to report or inform your ministry about it? Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Minister, you may take questions from those two submissions, those two witnesses.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. I wish to thank Honorable Member for Mwanza Central and also Honorable Member for Lilongwe Mude. From Mwanza Central, 2 reports from MDF. In as far as I'm concerned, there is just 1 report. I don't know about 2 reports. So the report that I have, just like you said, that if I can share with this, I think there was a mention to say, okay, whether I need to check with the chair, whether the report that I have is the same one that the chair has, but I don't have any problem to submit the report that I have so that the chair can also check whether it's the same one that he has, to avoid circumstances where maybe I might be withholding the report that I have, and yet the report that the chair has perhaps is the second one or is the first one, depending on whichever is the first one, whichever is the second one. But I wish to confirm that I have 1 report, and working with the Malawi Defense Force says there is 1 report. So is this one I'm ready to share with the committee, Honorable Chairperson and members.
Yes, what's the point of order?
Chair, I just wanted to really emphasize the idea that we know there are 2 reports which were made confidential, and this committee is interested. So the first one was from MDF, but the other one was from Civil Aviation. So I just wanted to highlight, according to the presentation by the Minister of Justice. Thank you, Chair.
So the report from Civil Aviation does not fall under the purview. That will be pursued separately. But I'm aware about the background where Mwanza Central is coming from. There is an allegation that there was a report that was issued within a week after the plane crashed. Okay, it was a very...
Mwaisayesa ntchito sikupezeka. Mwana mnyumba kusowabe. Ichitaka pa business yanu chakusokonezanu. Wosadandaula. Kuli Dr. Maiye kumbulumbuzi.
Muitano wa bizinesi. Mwai wanchito. Kukonza nsoma banja.
matenda okanika kuchirawo, matsoka osatha pa moyo wanuwo. Lero pabanja makukuthothani, wosadandaula, tangoimbani foni pa 0894 352 832 0894 352 832. Dr. Maiye, madotolo wa chinyengo musamale.
Brief report. That's an allegation, okay? That brief report was never circulated. So apart from the actual detailed report that we have, that Parliament was served with, we have a full dossier that we have been served with. It hasn't been made available to the members for security reasons, okay? But Parliament has that full dossier, that full comprehensive report. But I think he's making a reference, he's trying to clarify, there was a preliminary report. There is a preliminary report that was provided to Parliament, and that report was made available to some members, and members were asked, if you wanted to access the report, you can come to Parliament, they would make it available. That was made very clear. So those that had time would come to Parliament, read it, and make it, and then they would acquaint themselves with that particular official report. So that's where Mwanza Central is coming from. Yeah, just to clarify that misunderstanding. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate it for that clarification. But let me just go back and say that indeed I have one report, and I'm more than ready to share that report with this committee. The second one was the role of the minister in the event of an accident. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, if I may take you back to slide on the slide that talks about air safety. That's slide number 9. It should be section number 9, air safety and accident investigation procedures, where I've outlined the procedures that is followed. So when we are looking at all this, I reported that in the event of an aircraft accident, the procedures that we follow include immediate reporting through the military chain of command. So the military chain of command is whoever was responsible for that activity, they will have to report back through the line of command within the military, up to the minister, up to the chief of defense force, the minister, and even up to the commander-in-chief. Again, the issue of preservation of evidence, obviously this now would be the responsibility of those that would be responsible for the actual, whoever would be available at the site of the of the event, and of course the investigations that have got to be carried out. So what I would like to emphasize is adherence to the line of command. As you might appreciate that that's how the military operates. So you not expect anyone, any Jim and Jack, to report about an aircraft accident without necessarily, within the military, following the line of command. So that's what has got to be adhered to until the same is reported to the minister as well as to the commander-in-chief. The documents, if there are any in my office, I think the honorable member from Mwanza Central says that apart from the reports, if I come across any documents related to the accident, I would like to say no. I haven't seen any other piece of paper or document that talks about this accident besides the reports that I've made mention of. The chain of reporting, I suppose, again, this is about the chain of command with regard to reporting an accident, which I've already responded to. Coming to Lirongwe-Mude, no defense policy since 1993 to date. Perhaps I'll take that with a caveat that I did mention that I'll start with the Defense Force Act, and not necessarily with the establishment of the Ministry of Defense, because the defense policy that we are talking about is hinging on the Defense Act, and the Defense Act hinges more on the Malawi Defense Force. And I did mention that the Defense Force Act is that of 2023. So I will not be talking about absence of a defense policy since 1993, which is the establishment year for the Ministry of Defense. I would rather be talking about defense force or lack of defense policy from 2023, because the defense policy will be riding on the Defense Force Act. I did mention earlier on that from the Defense Force Act, we'll be talking about the Defense Force regulations and, of course, the Defense Force, in fact, the defense, not Defense Force policy, but rather defense policy. So, Honorable Chairperson, I would like to confirm that I would rather be talking about absence of a defense policy since 2023 and not necessarily since 1993.
Yes, yes.
Chair, the Defense Force Act of 2023 was a replacement of another Defense Force Act that was there. So there was a Defense Force Act before 2023, but because the amendments were many, then there was that parliamentary procedure. You don't just repeal one or two. If there are many, then you replace it. So it was there before 2023. Thank you, Chair.
In other words, Honorable Minister, the question is, do we have a defense policy in Malawi as we stand?
Chair, as I mentioned earlier on, that we don't have a defense policy as we speak now. There is one that is being developed and is in draft form, which we expect to finalize before close of this year. But thank you so much, Honorable Member for Nduna for that clarification, and indeed that that clarification that has been made.
Yes, there's a man.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted if you can clarify if your ministry has a policy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair, I wanted the minister to be straightforward through Chair, because when we keep saying by the end of this year, are we saying January to December, or we are talking about the financial year, the calendar year, which we use at the Parliament, where it started from 1st April to 31st March next year, so that we should be specific on that one.
So members would like to know the plan of action. What's your plan of action on the policy?
Thank you very much, Chair. When we're talking about the policy and the conclusion of the same, we are talking about the calendar year. That's by December 2026. The question to say, do we have the ministry policy? Chairperson, let me clarify that when we talk about the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Defense, sitting where I am, there is very small defining or differentiating line between Ministry of Defense and the Malawi Defense Force. Because the Ministry of Defense, I would say, exists just for the Malawi Defense Force. So when we are talking about the defense policy, there would be a very small line differentiating the defense policy as that of the Ministry of Defense and that of the Malawi Defense Force. Because unlike other ministries, for the Ministry of Defense, we deal with the Malawi Defense Force only. So when we'll be developing, as we're developing this policy, we are developing a policy that will be working for both the Ministry of Defense as well as the Malawi Defense Force. Because this is a national defense policy, so to speak. And I must also say, Chair, having this, that the members of this committee may wish to know that besides the defense policy, we are also talking about the national security policy, which exists. So the national security policy is different from the national defense policy, because the national security policy now talks about all the different securities that you can imagine: food security, health, environment, and everything else, inclusive of the national security. So we have a policy, national security. What we are talking about here is the defense policy. The black box, with your permission, Chair, if I can go back to Nduna, the black box. Any recommendation to acquire the black box? Yes, Chair, recommendation. I think everybody agrees that with the 10 June 2024 accident, there are so many lessons that we have learned as a country, sadly, acquiring these lessons through an accident. Because I suppose just as the committee might have established that, as Lilongwe Muda said, this committee has learned that the aircraft never had a black box for some particular reasons, but it has been noted that it is very important to have black box for obvious reasons. I'm also aware, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson and members, that when we are talking about black boxes and military aircrafts, particularly state aircrafts, there are also some conventions that do not make the black box being available in such kind of aircrafts. I think we're talking about Chicago Convention on civil aviation that do not make the black box be mandatory on state aircrafts. However, with what happened, and of course also considering, because the black boxes don't come at a small price, they also come at a small price. So it would be important going forward to consider having these black boxes even in the state aircrafts, even in the military aircrafts. I know Lilongwe Mude for his previous life, that he knows the reasons why the state aircrafts don't have a black box. There are some specific reasons. Again, with your agency chair, and I hope even Lilongwe Mude will permit me not to get into those details, but I think the lessons that we've learned through this accident, it would be very, very necessary to consider having black boxes in the military aircrafts for obvious reasons. Confirmation of any documents on acquiring on how the aircraft was acquired by the late Vice President. I would like to confirm, Honorable Chairperson, that I haven't seen any document that indicates how the Vice President acquired usage of this aircraft. Let me stop there, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Doa Kasangazi, and then Kasungu North. We probably will wind up with Mulanje North.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Zomba as well. Sorry, and then I have Zomba City South.
Thank you very much, Chair, for giving the people of Doa Kasangazi a chance to ask some questions. I have two questions for the Honorable Minister. The first question is on the fact that we are told that whenever the Vice President would like to acquire an aircraft from the military, the President of the Republic as Commander-in-Chief has to approve. I would like to know, Honorable Minister, if you are aware of this requirement and if the Ministry of Defense is involved in that process. That's the first question. The second question is on the fact that we have been told that the aircraft that was involved in the accident in 2024 was acquired around 1986, and that it was 40 years old, around 40 years old. I would like to know if your ministry has plans to acquire new aircrafts. Thank you very much, Chair.
Kasungu North.
Thank you, Chair. Kasungu North has got only one question to ask the Honorable Minister. My question is, what formal or informal defense cooperation arrangements exist between Malawi and neighboring countries regarding aviation emergencies? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Minister, you may take those two submissions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. Honorable member for Doa Kasangazi is saying that I suppose we are informed is this committee, or is this committee is informed that the VP, when the VP would want to hire an aircraft, he would need approval from the President, who is the Commander-in-Chief. So as I mentioned again, Chairperson, I will take you back to my presentation where I presented the procedures that are followed when hiring the aircraft, which is on number 7, where a formal request or a formal memo has got to be submitted by the government ministry, department or agency, stating the purpose of the trip and why military equipment would be required for such kind of a trip and everything else that follows. And this section mentioned that the commander of the defense force is the one who would now manage all this process. Now, when it comes to the vice president, obviously the expectation would be the office of the vice president writing such kind of a memo. But understanding the difference between the office of the vice president and other ministries and departments, the assertion that this would require approval of the commander-in-chief could be very right, because we are talking about the office of the vice president, which perhaps basically would also be understood as being very close to the office of the vice president being very, very close to the office of the president. It makes more sense to ensure that the commander-in-chief also gets to be aware of the need by the vice president to use the military aircraft. I would consider this to be a different arrangement and not being an ordinary arrangement like the laid down procedures, because of the office that we're talking about, because this is a VVIP office. And talking about since moving on to the next question, which is the aircraft that got involved in this accident having been acquired in 1986, about 40 years old. The number of years, the honorable member, may not really be an issue of concern, but whether the aircraft went through the regular maintenance which is required, which is a requirement, because an aircraft is different from a motor vehicle. An aircraft, I think, just like maybe a ship, these are matters that, these are pieces of equipment that live very, very long. As long as regular maintenance and repair works are done and refurbishments, because for aircrafts, in some cases, you know, some parts would be removed even before the aircraft flies, just because the mandatory number of years has elapsed. So aircraft's maintenance follows a different ballgame altogether, different from what you'd consider to be an ordinary maintenance of an equipment. So 40 years is not really much of a problem, but whether the routine maintenance and the compliance with the appropriate aviation regulations were followed. So plans to acquire new aircraft, yes. When I got into office as Minister of Defense and went around to appreciate the nature or status of equipment that the military is using, Malawi Air Force is one such unit that is requiring a lot of investment. So we have plans, yes, to acquire an aircraft, particularly that we lost this one in the accident. So it just makes it mandatory that we should think of a replacement sooner than later. Honorable Chairperson, from Kasungu North, formal cooperation, aviation cooperation with other partners, yes, we have such kind of cooperation, and not only in aviation or Air Force specifically, but we have different and several military cooperation with other nations within Africa and even beyond Africa. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Mulanje North?
Point of order, Chair.
Yes. Just put on your mic.
Yeah, you remember when I asked 3 questions, I said I have a few remaining. So I don't know, maybe after Mulanje.
Yeah, I will recognize it. I just want to give a chance to others that haven't spoken.
Thank you.
I'll come to you. Mulanje North?
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, from the presentation, I think on the, is it slide number 9? Air safety and accident investigation procedures. There is a very beautiful, layout on the procedures that are supposed to be followed. But my question is with respect to the accident of 10th June 2024, where these followed, you having perused the reports that were before you in your office. Just one example is on the preservation of evidence. You may agree with me that after the accident, the social media was awash with graphic pictures of the victims, very appalling state of events, which were supposed to be properly preserved, for the integrity and the dignity of the victims. Another quick example is that the plane that was involved in the Actedonia, it was taken from MPUNGWE, is now at the Air Force Base in Zomba. And it is not in the manner in which it was. It is actually shredded. It is now in pieces. It's in pieces, just to use the simple explanation. So I just wanted to know whether these procedures were adhered to following the accident. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, maybe we just take another question from Zomba City South, so we can manage time, and then I'll come to Mwanza.
Chairperson, it might not be one question. Being a vice chair, I think I'm privileged to have more than one question. Honourable Minister, I have several. I will start with your last response. You said there are plans to procure new planes. And I just wanted also to remind you that as you're preparing to procure new planes, you might also want to look around within the barracks. If there are other new planes that are not being flown, maybe because we don't have skills, maybe you might want to prioritize those ones before we start buying more new planes. Just an advice, in case there are new planes that are just lying idle. Chairperson, my next one is to take also the minister to slide number 3, I think on page 3, the last sentence where you said no person or authority may direct or deploy the MDF to act in contravention, etc., etc. What I have in mind is that we are talking about the chief, the commander-in-chief being of the overall boss of the military. This means that even the VP cannot move the military, the MDF, to do anything without the head of state, the commander-in-chief, knowing. Meaning, as you have responded, the procurement of the plane that is in question, you are telling us that the second citizen could not procure without the head of state, the commander-in-chief, knowing. I just want you to confirm that before I move to the next question.
Honourable Minister.
Chairperson, if I can quickly come to this, I think the procurement that we're talking about here is procuring the aircraft services, not necessarily procuring the aircraft. So I think I mentioned about this earlier on to say, considering the office that we are talking about, this is the office of the Vice President. Despite the other arrangements that we have, the standing arrangements that we have with regard to acquiring services of aircrafts from Malawi Air Force, where the ministry or department agency is required to issue a requisitioning memo, etc., etc. I did mention that considering the nature of this office, the office of the Vice President, I mentioned that it's very close to that of the President anyway, more or less like the same presidency. So I wouldn't really think that the Vice President would acquire usage of an aircraft without the principal knowing. Because in any case, my expectation is when the Vice President is traveling, he must take leave of the principal. So as he's taking leave of the principal, certainly the principal would also want to know what sort of transport mode the Vice President is undertaking. So I would consider it to be very important for the Office of the Vice President to write the Office of the Vice President, write the Office of the President and Cabinet, which is the Office of the President anyway, so that they get to know that there are these arrangements happening. And therefore that being the Office of the Commander-in-Chief would therefore move within the same line of command that I made reference to earlier on. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Chair. I was asking that deliberately because I think we have a point in question where the late Raf Kasambala, I think there were witnesses who sat where you were sitting last week, and I think it was brought to the attention of the committee that there were some phone calls that were made by friends to let Kasambara to procure the aircraft. So I just want to also to confirm that there was no memo deployed in the procurement of the services of the flight that carried the remains of late Kasambara. I think we have on record that our colleagues who were at the funeral were making calls, etc., etc. So I just want you to confirm that there's no other exception apart from the Vice President. Chairperson, moving on. Chair, the last question would be related to what Mwanza Central was asked regarding the, I think it's Mulanje North, regarding the wreckage. You might want to respond clearly to say, within the preservation of evidence, your ministry has done the needful to make sure that that wreckage can also be inspected in case we want to go back there to make sure that we have evidence. Because what we saw in Zomba, as the Honorable Mulanje North has said, I think most of us were left unsatisfied because these are pieces of the wreckage. I don't think that was the preservation of evidence, but we might want to confirm if that wreckage can still be used in case of we want to use it as evidence. Chair, submit.
So you might answer this question, which will also answer the question of Mulanje North at the same time.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members. I wish to thank honorable member for Mulanje North on the rules that are supposed to be followed, and of course with the specific reference to the donia, whether preservation of evidence was adhered to. Chairperson and members, as you may agree with me, when you're talking about preservation, obviously there's also a time limit to which you can preserve this. So in this specific example, when you're talking about this accident happening in Nkata Bay, June 10, 2024, and today, 22nd of June 2026, whether, when we're talking about preservation of evidence, this aircraft should have been in Tunga till today. Perhaps, Chair, that may not necessarily be attainable. However, the evidence that is there at Zomba Air Base, you might have seen that perhaps it's not in the original form that it could have been whilst it was at Tunga, but you might have found it if you've been there. I've been there myself. It had to be, some pieces had to be cut in different ways so that they could transport the wreckage. But at least the wreckage is there as part of the evidence, but certainly the wreckage is not at its original site where the accident happened, but the wreckage is there. And the wreckage is there as part of preservation of evidence. Because if somebody wants to see if at all there was indeed a plane crash, they can go to Zomba and see the remains of the plane crash. But they will not be at the site where the actual accident happened, because practically it would also have been difficult to preserve this evidence at the site where this accident happened in terms of provision of security and other attendant requirements. So yes, we are still adhering to this, particularly in as far as preservation of evidence is concerned, because the wreckage is there. We haven't destroyed it. It's there. It might just be that it's not in its original form as and when the accident happened. Zomba City South, you talked about this committee getting to know that it were friends that procured the services of Malawi Air Force with regard to hiring this aircraft, whether there are any documentation. I have information that there is documentation that was provided by Malawi Air Force to the friends that he requested the Malawi Air Force to provide these services to transport the remains of Leti Kasambara. So these documents are available at the Malawi Air Force. I think Zomba City South, you did ask about new plans regarding, I did not pick this one, right? Or maybe it's the one that I already responded to.
Chairperson, I did ask the Honorable Minister as he's procuring new planes.
Okay, yeah. So yes, as we are procuring new planes, new aircrafts, yes, we are aware because we had to undertake an assessment, an assessment of the existing aircrafts and identify the gaps. So we have some aircrafts, for example, that are lying idle at Chileka Airport, the MA 600 aircrafts. I think there are 2 of them. So we are aware of the challenges that we're experiencing as not to use them. Again, the same issues of resource constraints, but we are working on making sure that these aircrafts should go into, they should be flying, working with the suppliers of these aircrafts, and also with regard to the resource constraints, working with the Ministry of Finance and Treasury, that we can secure some funding to pay off the obligations that are making us unable to use the aircrafts right now. So yes, Chair, we are aware of the existing aircrafts, and we are making efforts to make sure that we also use them, much as we are also making efforts to acquire the others that we want to acquire. Thank you very much, Chair.
Mwanza.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Honourable Minister, if this issue is of, if it's a security issue and you cannot respond here, I'll be fine with it. But maybe through the chair, you can provide the information. I want you to probably, inform this committee. If our military is able to conduct its activities in any condition, rainy, cold weather, under the dark, do they have the apparatus to operate or to conduct its activities under such conditions? If you cannot respond it now, but if you can probably finish that information to this committee, maybe by close of business tomorrow. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Member for Mwanza Central. Thank you very much for at least giving me the preface and that advantage that if I cannot respond now, maybe I can provide this information to the committee later on, because indeed, Chair, just like I did respond to the others, if I'm to stay here that our military is not able, what would be the impression? But that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. In terms of the capabilities, the readiness of our military, of our Malawi Defense Force, if you really need that comprehensive report of our readiness, Chair, I may have to again check with the security protocols as to how much disclosure we can make with regard to our readiness and our capability to operate in different weather or conditions, be it raining, fog, dry, hilly, or you name it, water. We can provide at a later stage, but having checked to what extent can we share this information. So thank you very much, Mwanza Central, for at least giving me that, that perhaps I can share later on and not necessarily within this. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. Chair, just to emphasize that information is very important, I'll give you a background. The accident happened in the morning. Search started around 4, and at some point, search was stopped because weather conditions could not allow. That's why we need that information. It's very important for this inquiry. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mulanje Mode?
Chair, I just want Mwanza Central to confirm that the search started at 4. That's what he said. But I don't remember to have that detail that it started at 4. So I want to confirm if that is the fact that it started at 4. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, we were together at Ntungwa. This information I'm providing to the Honorable Minister is what the police told us at Ntungwa, I may not be exact on the time, but that's something that's why I said maybe around, yeah. But this question is specifically on the search that was stopped, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwanza Central. I think the facts on when it started will be verified, okay, when we go to search and rescue. I think we've had a good 2 hours with the Minister of Defense. If there's any lingering question, we can pose that question now, so we can move on. Doa Kasangazi?
Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to object to Mwanza Central on his request that the Honorable Minister here should bring information which will not be tested by us through questions. I don't think that will be fair. If the Honorable Minister here brings information which will not be tested via questions, then this committee will be prejudiced. So my view is that if the Honorable Minister is to bring any information, then he has to come back for cross-examination for him to be asked questions on that information. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, no, well noted. Honorable Minister, mine is just a simple question. You stated about the Defense Council meeting regularly. I don't know how regularly do they meet?
Chairperson will meet every quarter. Of course, in some circumstances, as and when there is a matter that needs to be considered, but regularly and as per the Act, ordinary meetings of the Council are every quarter, but we also do have extraordinary meetings. Thank you.
So does the Defense Council approve the budget for Malawi Defense Force? Is it submitted to the Council for approval?
Yes, Chairperson, as I mentioned that the Council receives reports from the Commander of the Defense Force as well as the Minister of Defense. So these are some of the matters that are considered by the Defense Council.
One of the questions most Malawians have is the distinction on security matters pertaining to the military. Do you have a set criteria on what is confidential, cannot be discussed or disclosed, so that we are very clear on which areas we can go, what are the no-go zone areas? As it stands, transparency and accountability is a challenge. But maybe you can explain to us what are the no-go zone areas and what is there any set criteria?
Chairperson, the military in its nature is a defense and security organ. In which case, I wouldn't sit here to say, you know, these are the specifics that would not be considered to be security issues or defense issues. Let it be known that the military, the Malawi Defense Force, by its nature and by its establishment, and looking at the objectives for which it was set, it is a security organization, and indeed most of its activities are security and defense activities. So much so that, yes, most of it would be no-go zone areas. And I think that's why even entry into our cantonments or establishments is highly restricted, just entry. Chair, disclosure of some of this military information, most of it is highly confidential, Chair. Thank you very much.
My last one, you have stated that recommendations have been made to procure new equipment, one of which is a black box. That the black box must be fitted in most of the military aircrafts. Can you confirm here that what you're stating is that there was no black box in the Donia 228, or not? Is that the implication?
Chairperson, in the Donia that got involved in this accident, I would say that there was no what is called, I think the honorable member for Lilongwe mentioned of the voice recorder, cockpit voice recorder, flight data recorder, and I think most of these are the ones that are referred as to the black box, for the reason that it wasn't there for the reason that, as it were, it is a state aircraft and military aircraft. And I mentioned earlier on that according to Chicago Convention, military aircrafts or state aircrafts it's not mandatory for them to have the black box. But specifically for this one, the Donia that got involved in the accident, the reports that I've seen, according to the reports that I've seen, the reports are saying that, because I wasn't there, but the reports that I've seen are saying that the black box was not there. So this is in accordance, according to the reports. Not me, because I wasn't there.
Okay, because we are in the process of gathering evidence. So anything you state, we will take it very seriously. Are you suggesting that the MASPA must be pursued further? Because we haven't yet concluded. You're basing this on the reports. It's not something that you know for a fact.
Chairperson, yes. My answer is yes, that has got to be pursued further. Because I wasn't there, I cannot confirm that this aircraft, this specific aircraft, did not have a black box. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that clarity. Honorable Minister, we've had extensive discussions with you, and we appreciate your time you have taken to explain to us the relationship between MDF and the Minister of Defense and the reporting lines. This will help us for making recommendations and also clarity on our report. We appreciate your time, and we don't take you for granted. There were areas where it was sensitive, we couldn't go to, where we appreciate for the sake of national security, and there's a space we cannot go to. If you have any other comments, remarks you would like to make before you leave, you're most welcome to do so.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of this ad hoc committee, I wish to reiterate my gratitude for inviting me to appear before this committee and provide information that we could provide as a Minister of Defense, as well as part of it as a Malawi Defense Force. I'm aware that you'll be meeting the Malawi Defense Force later on, particularly the CDF, the Chief of Defense Force. I wish to reiterate and put it on record that the issue of the black box is not an issue that I can confirm that it was not there or it was there because I was not there. What we are talking about here is, I'm saying it would be very important to be having this piece of equipment, even in state aircrafts, although the Chicago Convention says it might not be mandatory. But I think it would be very important for us to be considering, particularly when we think and consider that we are using these aircrafts, for example, for disaster responses, for search and rescue. So to undertake such kind of functionality would certainly require such kind of pieces of equipment in such kind of equipment that we use. Otherwise, on behalf of the Ministry of Defense, my colleagues that are here, allow me, Chairperson, to thank my team members for putting all this together to allow me to appear before this committee with this information that we've provided. We remain available beyond this time that we are leaving this room, should you require more information from the Ministry of Defense as well as from the Malawi Defense Force. I wish you all the best as you continue to undertake this noble course. I'm aware that it's not an easy job, but let God guide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and the Principal Secretary. You may take leave now.
Kodi munamvapo za Dr. Erube kwa Vumbwe.
Dokota Elube, Dokota Elube. Dokota Elube, Dokota Elube.
Kodi mukufuna mwitano wa business mtupatupa. Timabwezeresa banja likasokonekera kwa mphindi 40. Timatsirika munthu akaberedwa. Chuma, business ziziyenda bwino. Bwerani kwa Dr. Erube kumene timathandiza zonsezi. Nkhani zachitaka zavuta. Bwerani kwa Dr. Erube timathandizanso mwitano komanso kuvalirana anthu nkhope. Mukafuna kudziwa zambiri, imbani foni pa 089 94 26491 0899426491 ndipo mukatero mudzathandizidwa. Dr. Erube, Dr. Erube, Dr. Erube anachepa.
Welcome to MPUNGWE-PUNGWE YouTube channel. Subscribe for you to enjoy more of our videos anytime we upload.